The question that's on everybody's mind is, what should police have done? What was going on outside the school? Should they have let parents go in? We got a video to play from all of that, answering that question. And we're talking about the conversation that's existing in our political discourse nowadays, especially over the gun rules. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy in Earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Friday, May 27th, the year of our Lord 2022. There's some interesting videos that are coming out from the horrible shooting that happened on Tuesday in Texas. Not really sure what to make of those. We'll have a discussion here. I think we're going to read a lot of comments today if we can. But some video is posing some really interesting questions regarding what do police do in this particular situation. And I thought we all knew what that was, but apparently we don't. Also, just kind of getting into the conversation regarding just the gun debate currently. I'm going to play this clip. This is very, very lengthy, and there was no use in trying to censor it. If you have tender, soft ears, tune out for, 5 minutes. We're not going to play the full 5-minute video, but this is a video taken from outside the Robb Elementary School. When it was known, it appears that there was a shooter inside the school. We'll kind of discuss as the video plays on, but what it looks like is police standing outside the school waiting for backup. And I'm agnostic on this, by the way. I'm not going to sit here and armchair quarterback what people should have done or what the cops should have done. I have questions, and I'd like those questions to be answered, and I'd like to have a discussion about it, but I'm not going to sit here and try and tell people what they should have done in that situation because I don't know myself. But nevertheless, check this video out from outside the school after a shooter was already identified to be inside the school. We'll kind of discuss throughout what we think cops should be doing and what they did do versus parents. Watch this.
We're taking care of shit, he ain't done yet. She did. It's not good. Y'all should have fucking changed that motherfucker like that. What the fuck you doing to him?
So if you're just listening to this, it's looking like there's cops outside the school blocking parents from going in. Yeah. All right, so we'll let that kind of play in the background here. Getting some comments in here, and again, I'm just kind of trying to observe this and take in all the information. I talked to a couple of my police officer friends yesterday, and there was a varying degree of different answers. Some said, yeah, I would go in immediately. I would like to think I would do that too. Again, I'm not going to say I would. I'm not going to pass any sort of judgment as of right now, especially as the things are still working out. But I had people saying, and in the comments saying too, there are justifications to going in immediately, obviously, and then there's also some tactical justification as to not. Somebody said yesterday that, well, local law enforcement wouldn't go in necessarily until the tactical team arrives, who has more training in this sort of thing and doesn't want local law enforcement to get in the way. I can understand that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And in that sense, the bottom line here seems to be we need to ask ourselves as a country, what are police officers willing to do and want to do in these sorts of situations? Again, I'm not going to sit here and try and tell police officers, as I am not one, what they should and shouldn't do. But if we can craft a system to which that's a requirement for getting the job, of you go in and try and take control of the situation regardless of the danger from it, that seems like it should be the way to go. Now, the police lieutenant was on CNN the other day. Well, so if you're watching this video in this corner here, again, it looks like police are stopping parents from going in. So I don't really know what's going on. If anything, if the police officers there were not willing to go in for safety concerns or for tactical concerns, do you let the dads go in? The parents that were there wanting to go in? It's Texas. There's a reasonable chance that at least some of them were armed. I don't know. I don't know the answers to these questions, and I don't want to Monday morning quarterback this thing and say, oh, you should have, because the stuff is unfolding still, and I don't know what I would do in this situation myself. Let's bring some stuff up here. Joy says stopping parents might be smart. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. And again, this is not an endorsement of anything. This is me saying I have no idea. And a lot of people in the comment section saying I don't really know either. Roy says very troubling. It is. Let me see. Here's from Anne. Ask yourself, does the military go into the fight or do they stand around waiting for backup? Fair point. I'm reading through some of these to try and figure out, where we can go. Linda says the police were busy keeping parents out. That's what it looked like. And again, I'm not assigning blame or saying anything other than I don't know if this is the right way to react. And if that's the case, what's the situation? How do we sort out the idea that police officers hopefully would be willing to go into these situations? Because here's the thing that I think we all have known or learned at this point, having dealt with this a number of times. It would seem that the second the shooter is engaged is the second they stop shooting, or at least stop shooting the innocent people and turn their focus to the engager. So that, again, I don't know the answers to these questions, and it's going to be interesting to see this play out. This is one of the lieutenants on CNN being asked the same question from Wolf Blitzer of what are people supposed to be doing, what are cops supposed to be doing, and you can either agree or disagree. That's your prerogative. But watch this, and we'll discuss.
But don't current best practices, Lieutenant, call for officers to disable a shooter as quickly as possible, regardless of how many officers are actually on site?
Correct. The active shooter situation, you want to stop the killing, you want to preserve life, but also one thing that, of course, the American people need to understand is that officers are making entry into this building. They do not know where the gunman is. They are hearing gunshots. They are receiving gunshots. At that point, if they proceeded any further, not knowing where this suspect was at, they could have been shot. They could have been killed. And at that point, that gunman would have the opportunity to kill other people inside that school. So they were able to contain that gunman inside that classroom so that he was not able to go to any other portions of the school to commit any other killings.
Again, I don't know if that's the right answer. I don't know if I agree with that being the approach that police officers are taking. I'm just trying to observe here. Kyle this is an interesting comment here. All rants, no facts, the core problem in our society today. That's something that I've been talking about for the last several days. I hope that wasn't directed towards me. Maybe it was. Maybe you think that, and that's fine if you do. That's one of the problems. We'll talk about the conversation here in a little bit. But Sonny, with this interesting one, people should not go in. They could be mixed up with the real shooter. That's another good point. From a tactical perspective, are police correct in holding parents back who wanted to go in, who may have been armed? I don't know. These are just questions that we have to figure out and discuss as a society. And I want to get to this. When we're talking about how we're figuring things out as a society, the discourse around this has devolved to a new level. If you haven't been watching or paying attention, the thing that really upset me, and this is obviously notwithstanding the upsettingness of the horrible, horrible shooting that took place, that goes without saying. But one of the things while watching this unfold that was really troublesome to see was how immediately people dove into their political rhetoric on all of the sides. I think I mentioned on Wednesday, which was the first show back that we did since the shooting, clearly I didn't like the left going completely after guns immediately. I also wasn't a huge fan of Governor Abbott saying the shooter's name immediately, because I think that was a political move as well. I'm not going to say the guy's name, but it wasn't your typical, not typical, but it wasn't a name that was typical of these sorts of horrific mass shooting events. So I didn't like that either. I didn't like the fact that immediately the conversation got taken over by guns. Wednesday's entire show was about the fact that we don't talk about anything else but guns. And that's what I've been pretty active about talking about on Twitter. This is a clip from Senator Rubio in the halls of Congress, it looks like, being asked by a CNN reporter what he thought. Now, where are we now with the conversation surrounding mass shootings? This is a clip, like I just said, from Senator Cruz being asked by a CNN reporter. Now, watch this clip, and then we'll discuss what I think of how people should start reacting to this going forward, especially if we want to actually get to the root of the problem. Watch this.
But why not just expand the background checks to more commercial sales? Even if it doesn't prevent every tragedy, it could surely prevent some, right?
No, every commercial sale requires a background check.
Gun shows and internet.
There hasn't been a single of these mass shootings that have been purchased at a gun show on the internet. So if people want to do that, we can have that debate, but don't link it to these horrible events because they would have nothing to do with it.
What about getting rid of AR-15s? Why are these semi-automatic rifles necessary?
If people want to talk about banning specific guns, they should propose that, but it wouldn't prevent these shootings.
And instead, Rubio says he plans to push forward separate legislation to deal with improving school safety. It's unclear whether or not that will get Democratic support. The Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, has promised to move forward on these House-passed bills that would expand background checks on.
One of the problems that I think I saw pretty immediately, and again, I would openly admit that I'm very new at this and not entirely sure how to cover these things. I'd like to talk about things in a fair way. Obviously, I have a perspective on things, But one of the things that I saw and am continuing to see, like you just saw in that clip, is reporting under the assumption that gun control will do things in a beneficial way towards ending mass shootings. You can quibble with almost every piece of data. I've seen a million times my friends who may not agree with me politically, which I do have, and I think you should have, and we'll get into more of that later, posting stuff about the 1994 assault rifle ban and how it was super beneficial and effective. There's so many different variables that we can quibble with on that. I don't want to get into them entirely here, but to say that we assume that gun control or restricting guns, specific guns like an AR-15, is going to have an effect is just wrong. I'm not saying that it would or wouldn't. I'm just saying assuming that it would is not an accurate way to go about doing things. That being said, that's the assumption that's been taken by a ton of people on the left. And what my biggest problem is, people on the left who want gun control then blame people on the right vehemently because they assume that gun control will work, which is a bad assumption to operate on. And then people on the right, myself included, now have to defend that position of, okay, why? And now the only thing that we're talking about is freaking gun control, when there's so many other variables and components: fatherlessness, mental health crisis, depression. Why are none of these things being talked about? That's the question that I have. But the conversation has devolved even further than that. This is a sitting U.S. congressman, Congressman Gallegos, who went on a tweeting tear. And I understand the emotion, but this is not helping. He tweeted specifically, "F you, NRA, F you," and he spells out the word too. "Ted Cruz, you care about a fetus, but you will let our children get slaughtered. Just get your ass to Cancun. You are useless." I don't think that's helping. Just to be clear, F you, again, spelled out, sitting U.S. congressman putting out official tweets. I don't know what the terminology is, but this is online. F you, Ted Cruz, you effing baby killer. And he spells it all out. F your prayers. They haven't worked for the last 20 mass shootings. How about passing laws that will stop these killings? Again, under the assumption that laws would help in terms of gun laws, which is a bad assumption to operate on. And again, the problem with this is the discourse has gone down so freaking far that it's seemingly not going to do any good. I tweeted this yesterday because I don't know, and I hate to sit here and read tweets to you, but in terms of being concise and to the point, I just said, for those slamming those on the other side of the gun issue, are you suggesting those who don't agree with you are pro-dead elementary school kids? Hey, Congressman Gallegos, are you saying that Ted Cruz and all of the other people on the opposite side of the aisle that you verbally attacked on Twitter, are you suggesting that they are pro-dead elementary school kids? What are you getting at here? And do you think that the way that you're going about this is going to help bring any sort of reasonable change? Because it's not. Not only is it not, it's hurting the conversation. Now, in order to be fair on this, which is what I try to do here, I also am not a huge fan of people that I agree with calling people that they don't agree with libtards, Democrats, Democrats. I don't like that either. I don't think there's really any place for that. I don't think in a lot of ways it's been nearly as severe as what I've seen from the left side. But if I'm going to sit here and criticize them for saying the things that they're saying in the way that they're saying them, I also have to criticize my side for also not helping the conversation when it comes to that they're not helping the conversation. But that's where we are. And I wish we could get past the vitriol and the nonsense and try to get down to root causes. And this is a multifaceted approach, by the way. Solving an issue like this is not guns. Guns, 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 guns. Maybe it does. Maybe it has some level of involvement in the conversation. But we're completely missing 80 to 90% of the other part of the conversation. I don't know. I don't know what we do here. And I don't know how the conversation continues to continues forward. We're getting a lot of comments here about just what, geez. See, there's some stuff here that you guys are saying that it's just like, this is not working either. Civil discourse. Let's try to get back to civil political discourse. You may disagree entirely, but in almost every single case, and I've said this Wednesday, I can't tell you this for politicians, but I can say this for the everyday American. In almost every single case, the person that disagrees with you isn't doing it to harm you. They're trying to solve a problem just like you. That's where I think the conversation needs to go, and it needs to be, attempted more by each and every person on each and every side. That'll do it for us today in this week. Not exactly the brightest note, happiest note to end things on a Friday, but appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Am I thinking of anything else? There's a new Facebook thing that I'm calling, new social media platform that I'm on now. Ibble, I think it's called. So yeah, if you want to give me a follow on any of those social media platforms, feel free to do so. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be posting some of these clips on the Daily Caller page as well as my page. So we'll continue the conversation there. Until then, see you next time. Have a great weekend. God bless America.